The sun had barely risen over the jagged mountains of Virelia, a planet far from the warmth of any familiar world. Dust swirled through the air like tiny sparks of gold, and the wind carried the bitter taste of scarcity. In a small, crumbling settlement carved from stone and hardened clay, a young alien girl, Lyra, sat on the edge of a low platform. Her large, violet eyes stared into the distance, searching for something she did not even fully understand. Food, comfort, a miracle. Anything that could make the gnawing emptiness in her stomach disappear. Her thin arms wrapped around her knees and tiny shivers ran through her body. She tried to control her sobs, but hunger made them impossible to hide. Across the uneven floor of their home, her older sister, Kara, moved with quiet urgency. Kara was taller, stronger, and carried a weight far heavier than her years suggested. Every day since their parents had disappeared during the Great Famine, Kara had taken the responsibility of keeping Lyra alive. She had grown used to walking long distances for water, for edible roots, for anything that could keep her sister alive. Yet today, as she watched Lyra's small frame shake with hunger, Kara felt a cold knot of despair tighten in her chest. There was little left. Most of the food had been taken by the settlement elders to feed themselves, and the last of their own meager supplies had been eaten the previous night. Lyra's soft voice broke through the quiet morning. "Kara, I'm so hungry." Kara knelt beside her sister, brushing a strand of silver hair away from Lyra's face. "I know, little one," she said, her voice steady though her hands trembled. "I'll find something, I promise." But deep down, Kara knew the promise was fragile. She had searched every abandoned building, every rocky outcrop, and every hidden cache in the settlement, yet there was nothing left. Hunger was not just discomfort. It was a constant threat to their lives. It gnawed at Lyra, weakened her body, and made her fragile spirit tremble. Kara had to think fast. The settlement was quiet, too quiet. Most of the adults were busy scavenging or arguing over the scraps that remained. Their neighbors, once friends and allies, now looked at each other with suspicion and fear. There were whispers of outsiders, humans who occasionally came to trade on the outskirts of the planet. They had shiny metal machines, tools that could help cultivate food, and stores of sustenance that seemed endless. But humans were unpredictable. Their culture was strange, and they were often suspicious of alien species. No one had dared approach them directly in years. Kara sat down beside Lyra, pulling her tiny sister close. She rested her forehead against Lyra's and whispered, I think I have an idea, but it's dangerous." Lyra tilted her head, eyes wide. "Dangerous?" Kara nodded. "I might have to go to the humans myself. I will. I will offer something in exchange for food." Lyra's small hand found Kara's. You'll be okay?" she asked, voice trembling. "I will be," Kara said firmly, though the knot in her stomach told her otherwise. "I have to do this for you. You deserve to eat. You deserve to live." The decision was made. Kara left the settlement at dawn, moving carefully over the rocky terrain toward the human outpost. Her heart pounded with fear and hope. She remembered the stories elders had told her about humans. Tall, strange creatures with pale skin, hair in colors of night and sunlight, and eyes that seemed to see everything. They carried strange devices that could make fire without wood and light without sun. They were dangerous, but they were also resourceful, and perhaps they could be persuaded. Hours passed as Kara navigated the uneven cliffs and arid plains. Each step was heavy, every rustle of wind in the rocks making her tense. When she finally reached the human outpost, she hesitated. The humans were there, just as the stories had said, moving among their machines and strange devices, talking in a language she barely understood. Her heart raced. She had never spoken to a human before. Would they listen? Would they take her seriously? One human approached, noticing her hesitation. His name was Ethan. He was not like the intimidating figures in the stories. His eyes were gentle and his posture calm. Kara's first instinct was to retreat, but hunger and desperation gave her courage. She stepped forward, her voice trembling but determined. "Please, I need help. My sister, she is starving." Ethan studied her for a moment, sensing both her fear and her strength. "I see," he said in a careful, measured tone. "What can you offer in exchange?" Kara swallowed hard. I can work. I can help you understand this planet. I know the rivers, the plants, the hidden places." "Please, we have nothing else," Ethan nodded slowly. "If you help us, I can help you." But you must come with me to the settlement. We need to ensure everything is fair. Kara's heart sank slightly at the thought of leaving Lyra alone, but she knew it was the only way. She nodded. I will do it, she said, voice steady now, filled with determination. I will do whatever it takes. Ethan extended his hand, and for a moment Kara hesitated before taking it. She knew that leaving her sister was painful, but this journey was necessary. It was not betrayal, it was bravery. When Kara returned to Lyra to explain, Lyra's eyes filled with tears, not of fear but of relief. You're really going? She asked softly. Yes, Kara said, kneeling to look her sister in the eyes. But I will bring food. I will bring hope. I will bring a way for us to survive. Lyra threw her small arms around Kara. I believe in you, she whispered. The path to the human settlement was filled with challenges. Kara had to navigate strange terrain, avoid dangerous wildlife, and endure the constant hunger gnawing at her own stomach. But with each step she reminded herself why she was doing this. For Lyra, for survival, and for a chance at something better. When Kara finally arrived at the human settlement, she was amazed. It was not like the stories. The humans lived in harmony with technology, creating systems that seemed impossible. Machines hummed quietly, providing energy, light, and warmth. Humans moved with purpose, their faces focused but not unkind. Kara realized that survival was possible here, not through cunning or trickery, but through understanding and cooperation. Ethan introduced her to other humans who worked on trade and supply. Kara listened carefully, absorbing every detail. She spoke with courage and intelligence, explaining the needs of her people without shame or fear. The humans were impressed. Her bravery was clear, as was her wisdom. She was not merely a girl seeking help. She was a sister fighting for her family, and that made her strong in a way few could ignore. After hours of negotiation and discussion, Kara secured what she had come for: enough food and supplies to last her settlement for several weeks. The humans, led by Ethan, promised to continue fair trade, recognizing Kara's honesty and courage. Kara felt a surge of hope she had not experienced in months. As she prepared to return home, Kara reflected on what she had learned. Humans were not monsters, as some in her settlement had feared. They were capable of kindness, of trust, and of cooperation. She realized that survival sometimes required bravery, sometimes required stepping into the unknown, but it always rewarded courage and wisdom. When she finally returned to the settlement, Lyra ran to meet her. Her small arms wrapped around Kara as she cried tears of joy. The sight of food, water, and supplies brought relief and celebration. Kara had risked everything, and it had worked. The sisters sat together that night, sharing the meal Kara had brought. Lyra's eyes sparkled with gratitude and wonder. You saved me, she said softly. No, Kara said, smiling gently. We saved each other, and we will survive together. In the quiet that followed, Kara looked at the stars above Viralia and knew that life could be harsh. But courage, determination, and hope could light even the darkest path. She had made a choice, and it had made all the difference. And though tomorrow would bring new challenges, Kara felt ready. She had faced fear, spoken to strangers, and returned with salvation in her hands. The bond between the sisters was stronger than ever, and for the first time in months they slept with full stomachs and hearts full of hope. The sun rose slowly over the jagged mountains of Viralia, casting pale light across the settlement. Lyra sat outside their small home, nibbling on the dried roots and fruit Kara had brought. Her stomach finally felt full, and a sense of relief washed over her. She watched the horizon, thinking about her sister and the dangerous journey she had undertaken. Kara's courage had saved them both, but Lyra knew their struggles were not over. Meanwhile, Kara moved among the humans in their settlement, learning quickly how they worked. She watched their machines hum and spin, creating light and energy in ways she had never imagined. She marveled at their tools, which could grow plants faster and purify water in minutes. Kara realized that if she could bring even a fraction of this knowledge back to her own people, it could change the future of their settlement forever. Ethan guided her patiently, explaining the basics of their technology and trade systems. He treated her with respect, listening to her ideas and questions. Kara had expected fear or suspicion, but instead she felt a sense of partnership. For the first time, she understood that survival was not just about taking what you could, but about learning, understanding, and sharing. Days passed as Kara worked with the humans. She taught them about Virelia's rivers, hidden valleys, and edible plants. In return, they trained her on basic engineering, water purification, and food storage techniques. Kara soaked up every detail, knowing that she would need this knowledge for her people. She admired the humans' ability to adapt, to solve problems quickly, and to think creatively. She began to see that courage alone was not enough. Wisdom and teamwork could change the course of a life or even an entire settlement. One evening, after a long day of learning, Kara stood at the edge of the human settlement and looked at the stars. She thought of Lyra waiting back home, of the hunger she had once felt, and of the fear that had driven her to make this journey. But fear had not defeated her. She had survived, learned, and grown stronger. Her heart swelled with hope. Ethan approached quietly. "You have done well," he said. "Your people are lucky to have someone like you." Kara shook her head. "I did it for my sister, and for everyone back home. I hope they can survive and thrive, not just survive." Ethan nodded. "That is a brave and rare thought. Many would focus only on themselves. But you think beyond yourself. That is why you succeed." The next morning, Kara prepared to return to her settlement. The humans loaded supplies, seeds, food rations, and tools onto a small transport vehicle. Kara felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. She had learned so much, but she knew bringing it back to her people would not be easy. Some might resist change or distrust humans. Others might be too proud to accept help. Kara had to find a way to convince them that survival sometimes required courage, trust, and openness to new ideas. When Kara arrived back at the settlement, she was greeted by a crowd of curious and anxious villagers. Lyra ran to her first, her small arms wrapping around Kara's waist. "You came back!" she exclaimed, her eyes wide with relief. Kara hugged her sister tightly. "I promised I would," she said. "And I brought more than food. I brought hope. We can survive, Lyra, and maybe even grow stronger." The villagers gathered around, watching as Kara explained what she had learned from the humans. She spoke simply but passionately about new ways to store water, grow plants, and make life easier for everyone. At first, some adults looked skeptical. Change was difficult, and they were used to surviving with old familiar methods. But Kara's confidence, knowledge, and determination began to inspire them. They saw that she had risked everything for the good of the settlement, and that courage demanded respect. Over the next weeks, Kara worked tirelessly alongside the villagers. Together, they built new storage units for water, planted seeds in carefully prepared soil, and experimented with simple farming techniques she had learned from the humans. Lyra, though still young, helped as much as she could, carrying small tools, watering plants, and cheering on her sister. Slowly but surely, the settlement began to change. Where there had been scarcity, small green sprouts now grew. Where there had been despair, hope began to bloom. The bond between Kara and Lyra grew even stronger. Every night they sat together, sharing stories of the day, planning for the next, and dreaming of a future where hunger was no longer a threat. Lyra often asked questions about the humans, eager to learn about the strange and kind species that had helped her sister. Kara answered patiently, explaining how bravery and honesty could build trust between different worlds. One evening, as they worked under the fading light, Ethan arrived at the settlement. He had come to see the progress Kara had made. The villagers watched with curiosity, unsure what to expect. Kara stepped forward and introduced Ethan, explaining how humans had taught her some of the techniques now improving their lives. Ethan spoke kindly, addressing the villagers with respect. "You have all worked hard. The young woman before you has shown courage, intelligence, and determination. She has learned from us, and now she shares that knowledge with you. Together you can make the settlement thrive." The villagers were amazed. They had expected humans to be distant, perhaps even dangerous, but instead they found respect and encouragement. They began to see Kara not just as a sister or a girl, but as a leader, someone capable of guiding them through hard times. In the following months, life in the settlement began to improve dramatically. Water was stored safely, crops grew steadily, and the threat of hunger was greatly reduced. Lyra grew stronger, her eyes bright and her laughter frequent. She watched Kara with admiration, understanding that courage, wisdom, and selflessness could change lives. Kara's journey had saved them not just physically, but emotionally. giving everyone a renewed sense of hope. One day, as Kara walked through the newly planted fields with Lyra by her side, she realized how much they had accomplished. What had begun as a desperate mission to save her sister had transformed into a mission to save the entire community. She saw smiles where there had been worry, strength where there had been weakness, and hope where there had been despair. Lyra tugged at Kara's hand. "Sister," she said, "do you think humans will ever come back?" Kara smiled, looking at the distant horizon. "I think they might," she said. "And when they do, we will be ready. We have learned, we have grown, and we will continue to survive together. We are stronger than we were before." As the sun set over the mountains of Virelia, the settlement glowed with life. Fires burned warmly in the homes, children played in the open spaces, and families shared meals with gratitude. Kara and Lyra stood together holding hands, knowing that they had faced fear, braved the unknown, and created a future where hope was possible. The stars above twinkled in silent witness to their journey, and Kara knew that their story was not just about survival. It was about courage, love, and the power of one individual to inspire many. She had risked herself to save her sister, but in doing so, she had saved a community and shown that the bond between humans and aliens could be one of trust, respect, and cooperation. Night fell over the settlement, calm and serene. Lyra drifted to sleep with a full stomach and a heart at peace. Kara stayed awake a little longer, reflecting on the path they had walked and the lessons they had learned. She understood that life would always bring challenges, but with courage, determination, and collaboration, no obstacle was insurmountable. In the quiet hours, Kara whispered to herself and to the stars, "We have survived. We have learned. We are ready for whatever comes next," and with that promise, she closed her eyes, knowing that the bond between her and Lyra, between their people and the humans, and between hope and action, would continue to grow. Together they had transformed desperation into opportunity, hunger into growth, and fear into courage. The story of the sisters would be told for generations on Virelia, a tale of bravery, love, and the power of reaching across worlds to create a better future.